قال القائد إسماعيل
لن نعترف بإسرائيل.
قال القائد إسماعيل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening to all viewers and listeners, and I welcome you all to Beyond Pages series. How are you guys doing? I hope all and each and everyone is in good and healthy condition in the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I also, tonight is a very special event. So I also welcome our viewers from the other side of the world, our brothers and sisters in Europe, in Albania, to this program as well. I believe over there it is 2:40 p.m. in the afternoon. So I would like to say Mirem Brema to our brothers and sisters in Europe. So all praise to Allah. We are here again in our pages. We have conducted this program where we discuss the content from the book. The title of the book is The Case of Israel, a study of political Zionism, written by the author Roger Garrody. So tonight or today, we will have a very special session where we focus on the question and answers from our viewers. Because the previous two episodes we have been discussing the contents of the book, but tonight and today we will have a special session because we have received a lot of questions from our viewers. So I believe it's a result of a recent incident and 2-week-long military clash between Israel and Palestinians. So we received a lot of questions to be answered by our speaker. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Hassan Shahidi bin Abdul Rahman. I am your host today, inshallah. I also a holder of master's degree of social sciences in strategy and diplomacy. So, my fellow viewers, for you guys who maybe first time in our program today, you guys might be asking what is Beyond Pages series. So it's actually it's too suitable to its name. Beyond Pages series is a sharing session, it's a discussion where we talk, we debate, we extract the content of the book that we read to a deeper level of this conversation, deeper level of discourse. And we also might be changing views as well, so that at the end of the day, we may translate our discussion into an opinion and an action for the betterment of the world. Because we believe in 5 pages one day team. We believe books are not meant to be left to be collecting dust, but must be used to change the world we live in, to change our society around us. So, brothers and sisters, my fellow viewers, allow me to introduce our speaker today, a very special person, a handsome man. He is a data transformation analyst, a data transformation associate for IHS Markit, an international firm. He is a professional member of Institute of Chartered Shipbroker, or ICS UK. In the same institute, he was conferred advanced diploma in ship operation and management. He studied in Russia in State Marine Technical University, St. Petersburg, Russia. He holds the bachelor degree in marine engineering. I believe he can speak Russian very well, inshallah. He also an author of several books, mostly in Malay. Among them is number one is Berfikir Tentang Pemikiran, a thought, thinking about thought. I don't know the translation to it, and also poem anthology. Maka Kitab Itu Pun Bernyanyi in 2019, Life Full of Reading 2020, Gunung Tahan Hiking Log 2021. And the person that I'm introducing is, his full name is Syed Ahmad Fathi bin Syed Muhammad Khair. So, brothers and sisters, the past 2 weeks, we have seen violence, destruction, displacement of people in an escalation of events from the eviction of Palestinian from Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. And also we have seen where the event has been famous around the world, where Israeli soldiers attack worshippers in Al-Aqsa Mosque. So I believe the program tonight, is very timely to discuss the issue of Israel and Palestine conflict. This conflict has been ongoing for decades, more than 7 decades. So I believe it is very timely that we discuss this issue, and we must have the right information, the right facts, so that we know what is happening and why it is so complicated in this conflict. Tonight we will focus on question and answer, but before question and answer, before we hear answers from a question that have been posted, I would like to give the floor to the speaker who would like to give an introduction for a few minutes regarding our topic. Then after that, we will go straight to our question and answers. We have a few tough questions to be given to the speaker. So I think without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to our speaker.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. All praise to Allah, the most merciful, the most kind. Peace be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last messengers, and also to his follower until the end of time. Thank you, Brother Hassan, for the generous introduction. Okay, today we'll be continuing our discussions regarding the writing of the French philosopher Roger Graudi on his study on political Zionism. We will conduct these sessions in English, as mentioned by Brother Hassan, as we has an international audience today from Albania. So I'm not a native English speaker, so I apologize in advance if I have a bad pronunciation or you cannot understand my English. But if there is anything that you think you cannot catch what I said or what I explained, you can post your questions in the comment box in the live session, and our media will pick up your questions and send it to the moderator, and the moderator will pass the question to me. So feel free to ask and submit your question. So today, before we go to the question and answer sessions, I think I would like to recap a few points that we have been discussing for the last 2 sessions. So for the last 2 sessions, we have been discussed the books written by Roger Graudi and a French philosopher that studied the political Zionism. So the book actually, in the initial part of the book, Graudi dispelled the myth that Israel has a historical argument to be made to justify the colonization of Palestine. What Graudi actually said that there is no point in history before 1948 that existed a polity in Palestine that based on Jewish supremacy. There has been a point in time in the history where there is maybe a government or a polity that was led by the Jew, but they did not create a Jewish supremacy. They did not expel other ethnic group. They did not create an ethnic cleansing. So there is no historical justification for the creation of the state of Israel as we see now. So, and then Graudi also dispelled the myth that the state of Israel is built upon from the prophecy of the Bible. So he dispelled the myth that Israel has a biblical argument to be made. So for Gaudi, the interpretations of a Bible or the exegesis of Bible to justify the colonialism, the occupations, and also the apartheid policies are selective and based on tribal interpretation of the Bible, whereas the Judaism and the whole moral and also what we should take from the Bible actually is it encompass a larger humanity. It's not just a selective and very tribal definitions. So Zionism is not equal to Judaism. We must make that clear distinctions. So we are not hating the Jew because of their religions or because they are the Jew because of the race, but um, we despise them because of the crime that they've made, because of the racist policies that have been instituted and marginalized our Palestinian brothers. So Zionism is not a religion or it's not a race, but it's a racist 19th century nationalism idea that is akin to what Germany has in the 1930s. So Gaudi also made a point in his book that draw a parallel line between Zionism and also anti-Semitism, because both of the ideologies, they share the same goal. In Gaudi words, they are twins. They want to eject the Jew living in the diaspora from their countries and concentrate them into one countries. Finally, in the later part of the book, Gaudi explored from this type of ideology that based on ethnic nationalism from Europe in the 19th century, what they produce when they form a country, when they form a state, is a very expansionist policy, which we have seen in Israel history multiple times. Israel have invaded other countries. Israel have invaded Lebanon multiple times, invaded Egypt, Sinai, have captured the Golan Heights in Syria. So it's a very expansionist policy. It's also produced a racist policy that is very similar to apartheid policy that we see in South Africa. And today the apartheid nature of Israel has been affirmed not only by the international group such as Human Rights Watch, but also recently Israel own human rights group named B'Tselem also affirmed that Israel is an apartheid state. So that is actually what we have to understand, that we don't hate them because of their religion or their race or because of their skin color or anything, but we hate what we hate are the criminal nature that they have done, the ethnic cleansing, the discriminations, the blockade that they have instituted to the population, the starvation that they have caused. This is what the injustices that they have been committed to the population, native population in Palestine. This is what we despise and we struggle to remove, so that we can live with each other in an understanding and in a harmonious way. So that is basically my summation of what we have been discussed for the past two series. So I return back the floor to Brother Hassan to continue for further question and answer.
All right, thank you, Brother Syed Fathi. It's very good, it's compact and very good conclusion of for the past two episodes that we have gone through. So I will go straight to the question that have been given to us, and we would like to hear from our speaker today. So the first question is actually going back to the before the creation of State of Israel. The question says that what say you, or what is your opinion when people say that the colonization of Palestine happened because of Sultan Abdul Hamid II's fault? They said if Sultan Abdul Hamid II did not chase Theodor Herzl out or degrade him, Palestine will be safe. So what do you say?
Okay. First of all, we have to acknowledge that there is a migration of Jew in the time of Ottoman. So migration is not something that is unusual in pre-modern history. So people move all the time. There is no modern immigration system like we have today. So yes, migration did take place during the Ottomans, but after Abdul Hamid reign until 1909. So his government ended in 1909. So this is the last year that Sultan Abdul Hamid II ruled in Ottoman Empire. After the fall of Ottoman Empire, uh, the uh, the regions it called mandated Palestine during British mandate. Uh, there has been made a census, means that the British put out a census. They do a research, they collect data from the population. They've done two census in 1922 and also 1931. So during the census, what they have found is the Jewish population at that time in 1924 is only about in 1926, 25 and 26. This is after Abdul Hamid. Abdul Hamid only ruled until 1909. This is 1926. The Jewish population is just 16%. What that means is that yes, there have been migration, but it's not that significant. You cannot rule a country just by 16% of population. You don't have they don't have any majority. So it's not right to say that the what happened today in Palestine is because of Sultan Abdul Hamid. Yes, there is a migration happening. Migration happen all the time, even in our country. There are many migration from other part of Nusantara. We go back and forth uh, throughout the archipelago. So in landmass in Palestine also, they do have a migration from other part of the world, not just Jew. Other races also come in and go out. And even in 1947, 1 year prior to the ethnic cleansing of Palestine that happened in 1948, uh, the Jew only constitute 30% of the population. That is why Gorodi said in his book that the Zionist propaganda that want to attract Jew from all over the world to come in Palestine to settle in was not successful. The call was not answered by the Jewish diaspora because they have settled in other countries. Many Jews settled in New York, in Boston, in the United States, in the UK. They don't have any discrimination problem. So they why should they migrate to Palestine? So many of the Jew did not migrate, especially the elite group that have settled in diaspora. They did not migrate to Palestine. Only 30%. So that is why in 1948 they realized that the propaganda to attract the Jew to come to Palestine was not successful. So to attain majority, they need to do something to the native population. That is why in 1948 they committed an ethnic cleansing whereby the paramilitary organizations such as Haganah, Irgun, and Stern Gang began to burn Palestinian village. They displaced in Ilan Pape's book. He said that they depopulate the villages. Only then, after about 1 million Palestine, maybe 700,000 Palestine was displaced out of Palestine, become refugees in Jordan, in Syria, in Egypt. Only then they have the majority of 80%. So that you can check the figure that I gave, not just because it's all in the public record, not just from British census, but also in Jewish publication. They also publish. You can go to the Jewish library. They will show the statistic. They will show in 1947 only 30%, and then in 1948 suddenly the native population decreased by about 700,000 to 1 million, and then they become the majority of 80%. So my answer is that there is a migration during the Ottoman period, but it's not significant, and it's not justified to blame Abdul Hamid II, because it's not significant. It cannot create any Jewish polity with only 16 to 17% of population.
All right, thank you so much. It's a very good explanation to the answer, to the question. So next question we have. Okay, the question says that did Palestinian help Jews to establish Israel in those early years? Because I think this also relates to Sultan Abdul Hamid times. He said that did Palestinian help Jews to establish Israel in those early years? Even Sultan Abdul Hamid himself has rejected a request by the Jews to be given the pieces of land for them.
Yes, I think there are some confusion in the question. Yes, the Arab and the Muslim in Palestine did help the Jews that become refugees because of the pogrom and discrimination that they endured in Europe at that time, but did not help Israel, because Israel was not yet even born prior to 1948. But can we blame the Palestinian people, the Arab and the Muslim that resident of Palestine, because they help the Jew when they are in distress? I will argue that we cannot blame them, because if we go back to history, the Muslims have been helping the Jew for a long time. It's not just at the later part of the Ottoman Empire, but Muslims throughout the time have helped many times, because we didn't hate them because they are Jew, because they also not they didn't choose to be a Jew. Same as us, I don't choose to be a Malay, because race is something that we cannot choose. So we hate them because of their race. And Garaudi made this clear in his book, that we are all a part of this world. We are all together in this world as brothers. So if we look back at the history, when Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi or Saladin liberate Jerusalem from the Crusaders, he gave permission for the Jew that have been expelled by the Crusader to return. He even go further than that. If you read history, you can read that the private doctor, Saladin private physician, is a Jew. His name was Maimonides, or Moses ben Maimon. So in Muslim rule, actually Jew were given a higher status, given a public office. During the fall of Muslim government in Spain, for example, when the Christian Catholics expelled Jew from Spain, that time Ben Yazid II also accepted the Jews. This historical fact you can read not only from the Muslim record, you can also read in the Jewish record that the Ottoman at that time accepted the Jews. So today you have about 18,000 Jewish living in Turkey, which is concentrated in Istanbul. So helping other people, not only Jew, even Christian or anyone, is a part of Muslim traditions. What we are told to do is part of our akhlaq. So throughout history, we have been helping Jew with no problem. So I cannot see that why we should blame the Muslim if they help the Jewish refugees that come out from Europe. That is their obligation. If we see people in distress, we help them. But after that, it's incumbent upon the one that we help to do the right thing, not to do the wrong thing to us after we help them. So we don't hate them. We don't hate them because they are the Jew, but we despise them when they started burning the native villages, when they started displacing people. That is the crime. That not just if other people do, we also despise the same way as we despise what the Jewish people, what the Zionists have been doing to the our Palestinian brothers.
Right, it's very good answer, because that is what the Muslim has supposed to do, to help others in times of need. So next question is, I think this is very short, but it's a very complicated thing to answer. This viewer would like to ask, can you give some solution to this complicated issue?
Okay, so many people frame the issue of Palestine, or the question of Palestine. The UN said is the question of Palestine is a complex issue, that is, it's beyond reach, cannot be solved. The Arab and Jews are destined to fight each other until the end of the time. So this is something that nobody can solve. But it's interesting that Dr. Norman Finkelstein once were asked about this question. What is the solution? So what he suggested is a very simple. That is, follow the law. So the solution is to follow the law. Currently, what is happened is Israel is allowed to breach the law, international law, without any consequences. So whenever when the UN made a resolution, Israel flouted the resolution without any repercussion. No sanction whatsoever has been made toward Israel, although it's violate multiple of UN resolution. So the solution is we have to pressure the state of Israel to abide to the international law and UN resolutions. So there are many of UN resolution that can solve the problem, such as the question of refugees. So the UN has made the resolutions to affirm that the refugee has the right to return to their own home. And also the UN has a resolution that Israel have to withdraw from the 1967 borders when the Six-Day Wars, they fought and they captured the West Bank, they occupied the West Bank, they captured Golan Heights, and they captured Sinai. They have to return back uh, all that land that they have captured and occupied and return to 1967 borders. This is the UN resolution that we as the international community needs to pressure Israel to abide by this resolution and also to end the blockade in Gaza, give the Palestinians who are now the citizen of Israel the full right as a citizen to work, uh, to move without any restriction, uh, to have their basic right to vote. These are uh, the basic things that we can do as a solutions, not to uphold the racist and apartheid policies that have been instituted in Israel, whereby the Jew have another road, the Palestinian have another road, the Jew can have some a fertile area, while the Palestinian is confined to a slum. So the solution will be returned to the application of the international law. And if Israel did not follow the international law, sanction must be instituted to Israel, just like any other countries. Any other countries, if they breach international law, they will put to sanction. But Israel never been put to sanction. So this is the solution. Follow the law and return to the international law.
All right, this it's very good. So answer for that question, because yes, we have seen that the Israel have violated all many kinds of international law, and we have to pressure them and we have to make them follow the international law, because this is what the international community has been living in our time right now. So we all follow international law, but there is the Israel is given some kind of special place to not to be punished for their crimes and their wrongdoings. All right, okay, so we go to the next question. What is your opinion about two-state solution, and to what extent, and protecting the rights of Palestinians, or is it a hidden propaganda of Israel?
Okay, so the two-state solution actually has been discussed for a long time, since the beginning of the colonizations and also the ethnic cleansing that happened in 1948. So it have been put into the negotiating table, as a subject for a peace plan. But now, after 73 years, we can see no peace and no plan in the regions. So actually, Israel never interested in giving Palestine any of the land that they have colonized and they occupied. Throughout this talk, we have multiple of talk. We have Oslo Accord, Camp David, Takba, multiple of peace talk, but none of this bear any fruits, because Israel at the same time in the negotiating table, but at the back, Israel keep confiscating land and building illegal terminal in the occupied territory. So, and this settlement is designed to prevent the emergence of a viable Palestinian states, because it cut through the geography of the Palestinian village and separate the Palestinian into living into a small states like a Bantustan in apartheid South Africa. So it's not contiguous. The geography is not contiguous. After you you build a settlement in the occupied territory, it is not a contiguous geography anymore. So you cannot create a viable Palestinian states, because it has been cut to many of Israel illegal settlement. So many leading scholars today believe that the two-state solution is dead because Israel never committed to it uh, politically or in reality. Means that in action uh, they have never conducted their policy to build viable Palestinian states. So it's for me it's just a distraction. The peace talk is just a distraction. They want to buy the time so that at the back they will building their illegal settlement. They will steal more land, as you can see in that video in Sheikh Jarrah, where he said that, oh, if I don't steal your house, somebody else will steal. That is their true intention. Uh, sum up the Israel policy perfectly. So my question is, it will be a one state under one law, but maybe initially the name of the state will be Israel, but as history took its course, and if the refugees are allowed to return, the Arab population will regrow and restore to majority, and then it will change the name back to Palestine. But of course, nobody can predict what will happen in the future. But if history taught us anything, history taught us that colonization is not sustainable. You cannot discriminate, you cannot marginalize people for forever. There will be a certain times when the injustice will crumbles. So, for example, the British ruled India for almost 100 times, but after that it crumbles. So, South Africa also discriminate against its black populations, but after 42 years, it crumbles. So, the apartheid Israel maybe have endured 73 years, but at a certain point of time, I believe that it also will crumbles.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we must bear in mind that the hope is there for the Palestinian, and the injustices will fall, and then a good thing will happen, inshallah. So the next question will be quite go back to the history. If we look into the history of Palestine, into the history of Israel, the Jews are always been an expelled, displaced nation, displaced people, since the history of the prophets until to the period before the creation of Israel. So what is the solution for Israel, who rejected the reality that they are not worthy of a state or country? I'm merely quoting the question given by this viewer, but I don't know. Probably he or she has notion of the Jews are not worthy of any state or country. So can you answer this question?
I think I did not agree with the framing of the question that the Jewish people did is not worthy of any state. So if any people or any race, they have the right to self determination, which means they can rule and govern themselves. But yes, in most part of the history, the Jew were not living as a country. They live under various of rules, under the Romans, under the Byzantine, and then under the European countries. Uh, some of them migrated to the New World, America. But that does not mean that they are not worthy of creating a country. Actually, there are many races in the world that did not have their own country. For example, the Kurdish people, which some of them are in Turkey, some of them are in Iraq, some of them are in Iran. They did not have an official recognized country of their own. There are many other people, other different ethnic group that did not have their own countries. So if you don't have your own countries, that does not mean that you are not part of the the world. But our problem with uh, Israel as a state is that the injustices that they have committed against the native population. That is what we are against. We are not against them to have their own countries. If they want to build their own country in United States, and the United States agree to give some of their land to the Jewish population to create their countries, so be it. We have no problem. Uh, if the Palestinians agree voluntarily to give the land to the Jew to create their country, we have no problem. But as soon as you burn the villages, you murdered and massacred the people there, that is what we cannot accept. That you use violence, you use force, you use criminal means to expel the people and to expropriate their land. That is what we abhor, that we despise. That is the problem. The problem is you displace the native populations with uh, people from Europe, and then you create a country and you marginalize the native people. That is the problem. If they can find a land that truly without the people, so they can create their own country, we have no problem with that. But you cannot take another people country and say that, oh, previously there are no people in here, but but history recorded that there are people in there. Throughout history, they have their own polity, they have their own social system, they have their own villages, they have their own history. You cannot just erase one people and then created your country on top of that. That is criminal in nature, that we cannot agree on. But if they can find another place that is not hostile to them, that can tolerate them to govern the place and build their own country, there we have no problem. Actually, when Herzl uh, concocted this idea of Judenstaat, or the Jewish state, he did not automatically or uh, choose Palestine as the country for the Jews. They consider many other places in Africa, in Argentina. So it's not actually Palestine is not actually the only choice when the Zionists started their nationalist plan. But because of the history, the biblical nature of their history, they think they can manipulate that and use that as a justification for the state, and it is be more well accepted by the Jewish diaspora. That's why they choose Palestine as the place to create their states. So we have no problem for the Jew to have their own states, but we have problem if in doing so they massacred the native population, they killed them, they depopulated the villages, they expelled them. We have problem with that. But if they can find another place which they can build their nation peacefully uh, without committing any criminal act, or without committing any injustices to the native people, then we can agree. But if there is injustice, then we cannot agree.
It's true. I think it applies to all kind of people or nations in the world, where if you discriminate, or you done something wrong to the native population in those places, you will. I think those people are not supposed to do the same to the native people. So okay, the next question. I think this is question involves some knowledge in international politics in our current times. So the question is, to what extent the Chinese will intervene in Israel-Palestine conflict? China has also committed the same crime or discrimination towards the Uyghur in Turkestan. So what do you think about China's intervention or China's involvement in Israel-Palestine conflict?
Okay. If you see China policy, China actually have a very different foreign policy than the United States. The United States uh, regularly involved in other people affair. They come to this nation, or we want to help. We want to invade your country to give you democracy. We want to uh, expel some terrorists in your country, so we want to come to help. So they start bombing the country. So China don't have that kind of policy. So my view is that China will have a limited intervention in the question of Palestine, but it has a significant say in the UN Security Council, because China is the permanent member of UN Security Council, so they can propose international solution to the Security Council. Security Council. Right now, you can see when uh, at the recent bombing of Gaza, actually, if I'm not mistaken, China and Norway put out a resolution from UN Security Council to started the peace talk and ceasefire. So they did this to embarrass the US, because they know that US did not want immediate ceasefire, because they want Israel to have time to respond to the rocket attack from Hamas. So previously, if you read the news, especially during the Trump administration, China has been put to a lot of pressure in terms of trade. They were put to sanction. Some of their companies, such as Huawei, were harassed in the US, and some of the I think a top official of Huawei have been detained in Canada. So they are put in pressure by the United States during the Trump administration. So right now, when the issue of Palestine come to the UN Security Council, which is China is right now the I think the speaker, current speaker of UN Security Council, the speaker was rotated. It's not a permanent seat, but it's rotated. So, but right now, China hold the speaker in the UN Security Council. Then, and it proposed a ceasefire to embarrass. So, China used this issue actually to embarrass the United States in the UN Security Council. But I think that is as far as China will go. I don't see any Chinese intervention in terms of uh, ground support to the Palestinian or Israel, because China really want to involve in conflict, because they pursue are usually business and trade. That is their interest. China interest is in business, so there is no business uh, in associating with the current conflict uh, that happen in the region. So they will not come in. So they will come in if there is a business opportunities.
All right, thank you. But if I may add, from my perspective, is China is actually in great power rivalry between them and the United States. They also actually wanted to have some influence in the Middle East, and they have proposed themselves to be mediator or peace broker between Israel and Palestine. However, they could not be a very good or neutral mediator, because Israel is not keen or interested to have them as international or peace broker, because in China's language they are more neutral rather than the US, because US is more we all know that they have very good strong support within their administration. So China want to have some influence because they have also many trade and investment going on in Middle East, but probably it's not going to be successful to become a peace broker in this conflict. All right. Okay, so that's only from my 2 cents. Next one is some people have we have seen that the international support for Palestine is very vibrant, is very strong, is very good. However, some people have asked that why can't we do the same for the Uyghur, to protest and to put a strong pressure on China for them to stop ethnic cleansing on the Uyghur. So what is your opinion on this?
Okay. First of all, I think yes, what China did to our Uyghur brothers is very unfortunate. Is something that we are not agreed. The injustices that have been done to the Uyghur, but I think the nature of what they've done is not the same as what the Israelis have been doing to the Palestinians. Yes, because China they view that East Turkestan is a part of their territory, and in doing so, they don't want the separatist or separatist idea or separatist ideology uh, spread to the throughout the population in East Turkestan, because they want to keep the integrity of that area inside China. Yes, we don't agree with that, but I don't think the scale is comparable to what Israel have been done, because Israel is doing something else. Israel is settler colonialism, where you remove the native population and you transfer other population in that area. China have some population transferred into the Uyghur. The ethnic Han is the government encouraged the ethnic Han to migrate to East Turkestan. But what China did not did is China did not depopulate the villages. They did not burn the villages and expel the population or massacre the population. They have not done that. But what they've do, they put them in a concentration camp where they re-educate them. They re-educate them to love the Communist Party ideology. So, which means that because China is a totalitarian state, it control everything. Even your thought also will be controlled by the state. So, actually Malaysia have been helping, but it's not. Some of that is reported in the news, but mainly it was not reported in the news because I think our government also did not want to upset the Chinese because we have the relationship with them. But we do unofficially help them to transit their Uyghur that fled from China to third countries such as Turkey. I think we've done that. We help them in that terms. But I don't think that is what China did is comparable to what Israel did. Yes, it is an injustice that we cannot agree on, but it's not comparable to the scale of what the Israelis have done the Palestinian. That does not mean that I agree with what the Chinese did to our Uyghur brothers, but I think the scale is not the same. Maybe that is my opinion. Maybe brother Hassan have other opinion.
This is a very complicated issue. I do not have some really comment about this Uyghur ego problem that we have. But I would say that it's actually how the media portrays probably the way we receive information regarding the Uyghur people probably have been restricted so that we don't know actually what is really happened and in compared to what happened in Palestine. We have a lot of information around the world, around the media. So probably the way we see, the way we receive the information and the reaction towards that is much more reactive or much more stronger than the Uyghur. And another one probably because of the trade and also because of the investment that have been going from China into many parts of the world, that we restrain ourselves to give a strong pressure towards towards China because we fear of losing a big bulk of investment from the Chinese. However, this is also a very unfortunate thing that happened to the Uyghur, and I do have some awareness amongst ourselves towards the Uyghur. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I want to add on that. Yes, I agree with you that the other thing that that is not comparable between Palestine and Uyghur is that in case of Palestine you have international spotlight 24/7 on that area. That area will be covered in news. As soon as one rocket landed in Tel Aviv, there will be news all over the place. But the Chinese, they control the information strictly. No journalist is allowed to be there, and no news is coming out except from other people that manage to run out of the country. Other than that, you don't have news. You cannot see the graphic in Palestine. You can see the graphic, the bomb fall on the native population. You can see the bodies of people lying dead below the rubble. But that same graphic you cannot see in the case of Uyghur. I think that is why they lack some international pressure, because they did not arouse international emotions in terms of graphic, as is what happened in Palestine. That is very graphic. You can see not only the picture, you can see also the videos. So that stir the international emotion very high. I think because the Chinese government, the communist government there, they control the information very strictly, so you cannot see the graphic and it cannot stir your emotion in the same way that what happened in the our Palestinian brother and sister.
all right. Okay. So we have one or two last question from our viewers. So the second last would be no, sorry. I believe this is the last question. I think in the FB comment box we have no further question. And okay, all right. So the last question will be: if we look back in the history of world civilization from the Prophet's time, the fate of Israel or the Jewish people is a history of thrown out people, or we can say they are always being kicked out and expelled from many lands, and also from the blessed lands, in especially in Jerusalem, because they have been being expelled a few times in the history. So the question is the fate of Israel will be repeated to this Zionist? The fate, is the fate of Jews will be repeated to Zionist Israel in Palestine, where they will be forced to leave the country, and the development and the advancement that they have built in today, they have to leave all those things behind them. So will history repeat itself?
Yes. Actually, history taught us many things. But the problem with history that we can learn from the past, but it's very hard to predict the future. But from what I've learned in history, that injustices and also discrimination, marginalization is not something that is sustainable. At some point of time, it will crumble and it will fall. So in Israel case, uh, Israel depends mainly on the American support. The Americans subsidize heavily the military of the Israel army. Some of US citizens also serve in the IDF. They provide the ammunitions for the Israeli to bomb Gaza. In one occasion, the Israeli have been out of ammunition to bomb Gaza, and then the US said that okay, you can use uh, our ammunition that we stored in our depot, and we will be refilling the ammunition. So basically, the bomb that fall in Gaza is coming from the US. So, but there is a delicate situation in the US right now. Before this, the support for Israel in the American part is very bipartisan. You have two competing parties in US politics, the Republican parties and the Democrat. Before this, the support of Israel is bipartisan. Both of the parties support Israel fully. But right now, you can see in the Democratic Party, there have been a crack, which means that there are many politicians in Democratic Party which is opposed of Israel. You can see politicians like Betty McCollum, Ayanna Presley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders. They advocating the right of Palestine in the Congress, in the House of Representatives. So this is not seen before in the US politics. So you can see that the ground is shifting in the American part. So I believe that over time, the public support for Israel in US will crumbles. And when that happen, Israel also crumbles. This happened in the Vietnam War because the military want to continue the war effort, but the public did not want the war anymore. So at last, the US Army retreated from Vietnam. The same things happen right now uh, in Israel, where Pentagon is really interested in Israel because they can test their newly weapon so that they can sell it to other part of the world as a battle tested or Palestine tested. This weapon have been tested in Palestine and is proven effective. So the Pentagon and the military industry want the conflict to continue so that they can continue to sell weapon. But over time, if the public support collapse, uh, the military industry have no justification to continue the colonization and also the bombing of population there. So I think that um, I cannot predict the future, but I do believe sincerely from my heart that it will eventually cease from existence. What I mean by ceasing from existence, not the people, not the Jew. The Jew, I think, will still be living, but the injustices, the racist policies, the appetite policy that segregates population, discriminate the population, that will cease to exist. And um, I believe that um, the Jew will still exist in they have been existed for since the beginning of time. You can see the Jew living in the US, in UK, they even in Turkey also we have the Jew. So if Israel cease to exist, the state of Israel cease to exist, that does not mean that the Jew will cease to exist. They will still exist as a human being, but only the terrorist and racist government will cease from existence. Is my answer address the questions?
I believe so, because
Okay.
I also believe that your answer have already answering another question that we received in the comment box from Muhammad Man. He asked, in your view, how long will be the conflict? How long will the conflict will be ongoing? How long the conflict will be ongoing? Yeah. I'm just reading
Okay.
the question.
So to answer that question, because my contention is that the survival of Israel as a Jewish state depend on the support of the American public. So we can see that the ground have been shifted in American political arena. So there have been a crack. So it's not right now. It's not a bipartisan support anymore. Many of the progressive politicians in the Democrat already shifted their support. They did not support Israel wholeheartedly, which means that Israel can do anything without any consequences. They even have a talk right now that they want to suspend the sales of arms to Israel. So I think how long that this colonizations and this discrimination will happen depends on the public perception in America, because uh, America has a very strong influence to the world politics, much like the British have previously. So the British Empire, the sun never set on the British Empire, but right now the British Empire have set. So right now, the British Empire have passed the uh, hegemonic power to America. So if America, the public opinion of people in America cease to support Israel, we will see that Israel will start to crumble. So I think that is what we can do to shorten this life of the life of this apartheid regime is to support the growing movement of Palestinian struggle in America. So we can do that in terms of sending our donation to multiple organizations that um, uh, that fight for Palestinian right in America. There are many organizations that do that. Some of them are Jewish organizations that wants the Palestinian to have their justice, such as Jewish Voice for Peace. They actively engaging with the politician to stop their support for Israel. So if we can support that movement, we can help them grow bigger and bigger. At some point of time, that organization will be bigger than the Israel lobby in the United States, and that will help us to end the oppression and injustices that have been done to the Palestinian.
Yeah, I also agree with you, because we have to continue to educate ourselves and also support the support in international support for Palestine. Because if we see how liberal democratic or liberal international liberal order have been spread around the world, is also because of support by actually from the American administration, where they set up NEDOSF and NDI, all those organizations that go in every part of the world to support the liberal movement for democracy, and for the notion of the values of liberal international order in every state, in every country in the world. So I think the Muslim or the international community support Palestine need to do the same as well. We need to give donation. We need to have a strong support. We need to give any support or any aid that we can give to make sure that in injustices and the apartheid Zionists will fall, will crumble. So I think it's a very good discussion with you, Brother Syed Fathi. Thank you so much. We learned so much from you, and I believe all the viewers also enjoy as much as I do. So can I give you for a few minutes to give the summary for today and probably for our next episode in this topic?
Oh, is there any further episode? I thought that this is the final episode.
I'm not really sure, but you can also give anything you want to say.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Hassan. I think what happened in Palestine is very unfortunate in terms of human loss and also human suffering and misery that have been endured by the Palestinian people, and they have endured it for 73 years. That is a very long time. If you born in 1948, right now you will be 73 years old if you are still alive. You already been have maybe 2 or 3 grandchildren. So I think we have to be optimistic about the future. But if you want to be optimistic, that is not means that we just sipping our coffee and do nothing. But that optimistic must be driven with effort, with our sincere effort, especially in educating ourselves and people around us on the true nature of the issue. We have to spread the words, and we have to uh, we have to be the voice of the Palestinian people, uh, because sometimes they don't have their voice heard. So we have to be the extension of their voice. We have to educate our people, our community, our nations, our brothers and sisters around the world on the issues, so that they will see that these issues is actually a humanitarian issues that can be joined by other people, no matter their religions and their races or their ethnicity. So, because everyone want to live in harmony, in respectful ways, in dignity, in which they the right for their living, the right for working, for education is respected. So I think this is what the Palestinian have been denied for 73 years, and we should strive, and we should help in any way possible to uh, help their struggle, to have back their dignity, to have back their land, and so that they can live normally as us. Because if you see the people in Gaza, they live in very horrible situation where there is no food, no electricity, and also they, after the Israeli bomb their apartment, they even don't have their house anymore. So it's incumbent upon us, as the privileged uh, citizen of the world, to help our brothers and sisters there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very good summary and all discussion. And also thank you to all the viewers in our FB Live. I hope we are all gain something tonight in Albania, probably in the afternoon. So we will see you next time. Probably don't know. I'm still waiting for instruction from the organizer whether we will have another session in this topic or other topics probably. So I thank you all of you today. We hope, inshallah, this will be a very blessed event program tonight, and we will be rewarded by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, and we will continue to fight for the freedom of Palestine, inshallah. So we will see you next time. Good night, goodbye, and to all to our Albanian brother sister Miru Pafshim. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
هلا هلا يابا هلا هلا هلا